Welcome back to Ready, Set, Go. I am your host, Bryan Vogt, and we've been talking with all this morning with Deb Rust of New American Funding and giving some fantastic information about the lending process. And in a nutshell, it's really, really easy if you just reach out. You just reach out and talk to a lender similar to Deb Rust or Dave Hoyt at New American Funding. That's just that simple. They're here to help, and that's what you're looking for in any lender, is the ability to just listen to your needs, concerns, and put a game plan together. Most of the time it's going to work out, but if it doesn't, at least you know that up front so you don't get any high hopes and only find out that you can't pull the trigger. So with that said, I kind of want to move into what I mentioned in the last segment, kind of the tease, is the biggest myth. As realtors, we still hear this. We hear this from buyers that they would buy a home, but they haven't quite got their 20% down in order to buy a house. And Deb, that's not a bad thing, but it's not the only way. In fact, it's rare that people have 20% in today's market, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And, 9 times out of 10, I will talk people out. I mean, if they're selling a house and profiting and they want to put that money back into a new house, it's perfect. But for first-time home buyers, especially, or just, younger people, it's much more lucrative to keep your cash on you than it is to put it on a mortgage loan. And borrowing money is cheap. Even with the little bit higher interest rates that we've been seeing lately, borrowing money is still very, very cheap. And what people forget, or what people aren't educated in, I guess, is that when you hit that 20% equity mark, yes, you lose mortgage insurance, and everybody thinks that mortgage insurance is the big evil. But what you're doing basically is the lender is taking a risk on you. The whole payback of the loan falls on the borrower, and there's no protection on the lender. So a lot of times a 20% down loan could yield a higher interest rate than a 10% down loan, solely because if the mortgage insurance is absent, the lender has no protection. So we've structured deals at times where we have done maybe 15% down or 10% down, as I mentioned, and the interest rate is ridiculous cheaper. So yeah, you're paying that little bit mortgage insurance, but you're saving on rate. And it's always easier to pay extra, on a lower rate than it is, every month pay down your principal and lose the mortgage insurance at a later date and then still be locked into that lower interest. So those are things that people forget, and I do hear it so often with people that listen to maybe their parents and, mom and dad want to gift them so that they're at that 20% mark. And from an underwriting standpoint, I can't stress enough, it is so much better. We want to know that when you buy this house, you have X amount in reserve in the bank for, moving. The first couple months of living in a home are the most expensive, obviously. And the last thing we want to do is get into a situation where your first payment comes and you don't know where it's going to come from. So, the 20%, the days of 20% down are over. And I probably have 7 out of 10 phone calls still from people that think that's the best deal they're going to get, and it just simply isn't true.
Well, and that's a good point too. And I'm talking with Deb Rust of New American Funding today. But I also, again, and I know this is how you guys operate. If somebody wants to do that, if they're in that situation where 20% or even higher or whatever it is, that's perfectly fine. What I'm hearing from you is that, believe it or not, there are a few occasions where it can actually hurt you a little bit. So, again, in a nutshell, 3.5%, which is FHA loan, is still the number one buying, is what buyers use, especially first-time home buyers, as far as the country goes. That can change a little bit here locally. But, again, there could be other options. But the fact of the matter is that you don't need to have those big numbers. And that's really important, because if you think you do, you're simply going to be delaying the process. And look, right now, and I think this, that Deb, that interest rates are creeping up. It's not panic time. It's not panic time. You can still get into a house and all that, but that's not really what you want to be looking at. Why would you pay whatever amount more? It doesn't matter what the amount is. More if you didn't have to. That if you could move forward with it with a 5% or 3.5%, or maybe a VA, or whatever you're looking to do. And
Or our
really
1%.
important for people know.
Yeah, don't forget we have our conventional 1% down program that's still hanging out there and probably will till the end of the year. It's an amazing deal. The MI companies are really giving us a break on the mortgage insurance on those 1% down. So we're seeing it replace a lot of grant programs, and it's just a really good deal. So, yeah, 0% down loans are there, 1%, 3%, 5%, they're all there.
Hey, we ran out of time, Deb. Been talking with Deb Rust at New American Funding. Thank you so much for your insight and your experience.
Thank you.
And I'm sure we'll talk again down the road.
Sounds great. Thank you. Have a great day.
You're listening to Bryan Vogt. Everybody said so. We'll see you in a few. Bye.